name's Durward from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm here to install a Welte Orchestrion for the National Association, watching clock collectors. It's a donation from a client of mine who most graciously donated it to the museum where it can be seen and heard by many, many people. It's an instrument that I restored about 20 years ago, and it's been through 2 homes since then, but I've maintained it all this time and just finished the installation here. Installation, I got here this morning about 10 o'clock, and it's 5 now, so about 6 or 7 hours. It went very smoothly. It takes longer to pack one than it does to set one up. I've been working a full week to get it packed and ready to come up here. Oh, it fully assembled, it's about 1,500 pounds.
And how many pieces?
No idea. Thousands and thousands of pieces. I mean, it depends on how far down you want to dismantle it. It has about 250 organ pipes in it, bass drum, snare drum, triangle, and cymbal, all controlled by a perforated paper roll. And you could get, at the time, you could get any kind of music available. You get popular music, classical, patriotic songs, religious songs. It depends on where it was located. If it was in a private home, you might want to get dancing music for it or background music. If it was in a commercial location like a restaurant, some sort of more relaxing type of sound. Many of them went to houses of ill repute where they would have the latest ragtime and jazzy music on it. It was built in Germany. The original case was lost on this organ, but from this period, it's likely that the case would have been built up in Poughkeepsie. They had a plant up in New York in the early teens and 20s. And they would import orchestrion mechanisms from Germany and build case styles that were pleasing to Americans over here. As I said, the original case for this one was lost, and the case that we reproduced is from a Welte catalog of about 1914 era. But Welte was one of the first promoters and makers of orchestrions, a German firm, and they developed a clientele all over the world. Wealthy clientele, because they were very expensive at the time. People in this country like the Fricks, the Mellons, and the Vanderbilts had these in their home, and they went into palaces all over Europe and Asia. Some even went to China, Sumatra, just all over the world. There were some in South America. They began business in the 1830s in the Black Forest of Germany making clocks. And Michael Welte had an idea to put a little tiny organ in the top of a tall case clock to make it play a tune on the hour. And that was their first line into musical clocks, as we're kind of surrounded by them here. But over time, the organs got larger and larger and the clocks less consequential until they had a full-fledged self-playing pipe organ. Played a pin cylinder, of course, like a music box. But some of them got extremely large, even larger than the Engel clock behind me, or behind you. And again, he courted the clientele of the royalty all over Europe to sell these things. And by, I think, 1889, I'm not sure of the date, he developed a perforated paper roll to play the organ, which revolutionized the industry. Instead of changing the big barrels, some were 4 and 5 feet long. Instead of having to change those, you could just put a paper roll on. They were less expensive to make and easier to change. So many companies, after he developed it, started producing paper roll organs like this one is. Yeah, it ran on a large weight, just like most tall case clocks that you would have to wind up. And the little organs within them would have a set of bellows that also had a clockwork mechanism to operate the bellows and supply the air for the pipes, and also the mechanism would rotate the pin cylinder for the program music. Of the paper roll operated organs by Welte, there are probably 45 surviving
Wow.
out of maybe 2,000 made of this type.
And how many in America?
Oh, I'm sure there are at least 25 or 30. Most are over here.
Mm-hmm.
Most are in the hands of collectors now. Time has not been kind to their survival rates because they're so big. If they stop working, you can't just shove it off in a back room. And furniture styles changed, and they were out of fashion. Then there was a period you couldn't get rolls for them, so just take it out and chop it up, and that's what happened to a lot. A lot were burned. A lot in Europe were destroyed by bombing raids in the different world wars or scrap drives. So I think we're lucky to have the 45 that are still here. Interesting, there are only 3 left in this country in their original locations. One is in the Henry Clay Frick House in Pittsburgh called Clayton. It's one of my children. It's a style 6, it's a big one. The second one is a style 3 in Zaharico's Ice Cream Parlor in Columbus, Indiana, another of my children. And the third is in the Asa Packer Mansion in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, unrestored as of yet, but hope to do that one someday.
So when you say they're your children, it means you've worked?
It means I've restored them, yeah. There are a few more overseas. The largest one of this series is in the King Summer Palace in Sinaia, Romania. It's called Pelish Castle. It's not playing, but it's just in mint condition. It's a style number 7. Larger the number, the larger the organ, and they built styles 1 through 10. This one's a 2. It's a little one. Well, this particular organ, we don't know the provenance of it back to day one. It first became known in modern times. It was in a museum collection in Reno, Nevada, in the Cowboy Hall of Fame. And it had been modified severely with a modern case on it and had more organ pipes added. And it was just played to death out there and completely worn out. Before that, they claim, this is just hearsay, that it came out of the Du Bois Hotel in San Francisco. But I have no confirmation of that at all. And by 1998 or so, there was an auction of that museum. It was purchased by a collector in Chicago who sent it to me for restoration. And I got rid of all the non-original parts and made a reproduction case as close as we could from existing catalog images and restored the rest of the organ back to its original glory. And then he sold it about 1990, I forget all these dates, around maybe 2005. It went to a collector in Milwaukee, and then he got a large Welte, big collector, and took this back to my shop and eventually ended up donating it to the museum. I got interested in church organs when I was just a kid, maybe about 1962, and didn't start my own business until 1973 after I left the Smithsonian. I was there from 71 to 73 doing maintenance and restoration on an exhibit called Music Machines American Style. Great experience, great place to work. But then I struck out on my own and been doing it ever since. Moved to Baltimore in 76. I went to Romania to inspect that organ. There's a style 5 in the Dolmabahce Palace in Istanbul, and I went to see that one. It's missing most of its pipes, so it'll probably never get restored. But yeah, that's also an original location. But the rest of them all moved on. Museums or private collectors. They're very highly sought after by collectors because they are so rare and so beautiful to look at.